We welcome you to another edition of Snap the Pigskin. Preseason has officially started. This is week 1 of the NFL preseason. I'm Noah Clark, joined by Kedrick Stumbris. We are going to continue on with our AFC and NFC South previews. Kedrick, good to hear from you. Good to see you. You went to Platteville for the Badgers camp, and because Badger football is 3 weeks away now. Week 1 starts. Is that the last week of August, or is that?
Yeah, we are exactly, as we're recording this August 7th, we are exactly 3 weeks away from the opening kickoff. So that's exciting. Fans, if they want to get a look at the team ahead of time, there is a open scrimmage to the public down in Platteville this Saturday, the 9th. So as I'm sure a release tells me I should tell the public somewhere in my email, you should go if you are the public.
I would want to go. Unfortunately, I'm in Minnesota this weekend. But for good reason, though. It's Tegan's little sister's birthday, so good for her. Let's get right into let's get into our weekly headlines. We only have one weekly headline because we got a lot to cover for the AFC South and NFC South. And this is a big one. This was actually a day after we had recorded our last episode. Micah Parsons requesting a trade from the Dallas Cowboys. He is on the last year of his rookie deal. He wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. The only issue with that is Jerry Jones making things difficult. They had a deal potentially in place back in March. Adam Schefter reported that. And here we are in August and still no deal. So now it's come to this. Micah Parsons requesting a trade. But that's another thing, too. Jerry Jones basically going out into the public and lashing out at Micah Parsons, or saying Micah Parsons is not a good player, and using Dak Prescott last year as that example. So here we are now to Micah Parsons requesting a trade from the Cowboys. He posted it on his social media that he is requesting a trade from the Cowboys. Here we go. This is interesting stuff here from Dallas, but another report that came out, Jerry Jones said he doesn't want to let Micah Parsons go. This is one of those classic standoffs that we have here, and in Dallas especially. There's probably a Cowboy-related thing in there, Cowboy-related pun, but I can't think of one. But yeah. I don't know what happens next here. What happened with the Cowboys and Micah Parsons?
I think it's telling that there are basically two teams in the league that this happens to. And we both know which teams they are. No, it's the Dallas Cowboys and whom?
The Cincinnati Bengals.
That is correct. And we both know basically the reasons for both. It's astonishing that this is the pattern that happens over and over and over again, and these are just complete outliers. I have no idea what happens here next. It feels like Parsons is just going to have to play at some points, regardless of a trade request, because otherwise his contract is not going to turn over year, and he's not going to end up using a year if he starts missing game checks. And I know that's fast forwarding a lot, but it just feels like this has the potential to drag out like it did last year with CeeDee Lamb. And then CeeDee Lamb didn't come in looking quite 100%, and he got a little bit of a slow start. And you wonder what this would be like if the outlook for the Cowboys season was a little bit more rosy. But given that it does not, this just screams like unnecessary soap opera. And it's just the whole thing that frankly, we have talked about a lot in the 2 years I've been doing the show with you now. Mm-hmm. They just need the Jerry Jones era to be over sooner rather than later, and I will leave it as curt as I can so as to not get more morbid about it. But it's contract disputes all the way down, and it's tied in with clearly they couldn't hire their first, second, or third choice of a head coach, or couldn't even interview that person. My guess is it's all related. My guess is it's all very related.
It would not. I mean, and now your best defensive player that you had since DeMarcus Ware is requesting a trade, and things aren't looking good for Dallas. And you're right. I mean, like until whether or not Jerry Jones sells the team or the thoughts, but this definitely does not look good for the Cowboys. And we went and talked about this last week on our show last week with the NFC East preview. Dallas kind of going to be one of those middling teams. They're not going to really do good. They're not going to really do bad. But until, there's change in ownership or any leadership at all for that matter, Cowboys are going to stay the same way that they're at. So that is our weekly headline. Only got one for today. So we can jump right into our AFC South preview. For those of you that didn't listen to our last week's episode on the NFC East, AFC East, we'll give you just a quick rundown of how this will go. So we're going to preview all 8 teams from each division. So 4 from the AFC South, 4 from the NFC South. We've got 3 categories: touchdown, turnover, and trick play. Touchdown, something positive that you think this team will come out of. Turnover, something bad you think that this team could either work on or they're probably just going to suck at. And trick play, what are we looking for in a trick play? Surprises, question marks. Are there things unanswered? So that is what we are going to be doing with each of these teams. And we're going to be doing this for the next few weeks until the regular season. So without further ado, let's jump right into it with the Tennessee Titans. They had the worst record in the National Football League last year. They had a complete roster turnover. New head coach Brian Callahan came in, tried to get that offense back to where it was at, or overall just try to get that team where it was at under Mike Vrabel. Success wasn't there. Team kind of fell apart, but they get Cam Ward this year. I'll segue right into touchdown, Kedrick, because what is the touchdown here for the Tennessee Titans?
It is that this is Cam Ward's offense with Will Levis now on injured reserve with an injury to his throwing shoulder and undergoing surgery on that throwing shoulder. This is Cam Ward's offense. And after seeing what Will Levis could or could not do for Tennessee a season ago and over the last couple of seasons, I think it has to just raise your floor of expectations for what this offense can be, basically regardless of how overwhelmingly positive or not you are about Cam Ward. I think they just have to be better this year than they were a season ago. I just feel like that's an inevitability. And so Cam Ward's going to get a chance as this team continues to struggle through a rebuild at a very, very large scale. And Ward's got some weapons around him in Calvin Ridley, Van Jefferson, and of course the Titans going out and signing Tyler Lockett in the offseason. He has some veteran tools that are just going to be reliable receivers for him. And it's going to give you just a chance, if you're the Tennessee front office, to evaluate Cam Ward on his own terms with receivers that aren't necessarily learning along with him.
Yeah. That's the same thing I had here with this team for my touchdown. Cam Ward, number 1 overall draft pick in what was a horrid quarterback draft class. He was the only bright spot out of that entire 2025 draft class. I like the fact that they're going from Will Levis to Cam Ward. I think that is a big change for them. And what also I think was huge too is he brings a much needed boost to this passing game. Like you said, they added pieces like Tyler Lockett, adding a piece like Tyler Lockett to that group, I think is very huge because he's a solid wide receiver. He was a solid wide receiver in Seattle. You also look to last year when they had Will Levis, they were 26th in pass offense. Cam Ward kind of comes in and is really a big boost to that offense. You also look at the big boost that they will have that is already there, the rush offense. I know it's not a big boost, but they were 19th in total rushing, so they were still a decent rushing offense. Now you can boost that up with a quarterback in Cam Ward who can move and can throw the ball. I think it's a great addition for Tennessee. I think even too, this year for the Titans, they don't really have to worry about competing for the playoffs, which I think a lot of teams, when they get that rookie quarterback right off the bat, their first instinct is compete right away with the rookie quarterback, try and compete in that division. I don't think that's the case with Tennessee. I think they're still a year or two away with this roster, but Cam Ward kind of moves the needle a bit to kind of accelerate that rebuild just a little bit. So turnover. Now we move on to turnover. What are your thoughts on the turnover here for the Tennessee Titans? Honestly, there's so much to dissect because this team was dead last in the league last year. So what can we make from it? What is the turnover here, Kedrick?
I think this was a defensive front that was not very good last year, and they lost their best player on the defensive front as well, which
Yikes.
is probably not going to mean Cam Ward's going to get a lot of help from the other side of the ball this year. Harold Landry now follows Mike Vrabel over to the New England Patriots after Landry at outside linebacker had 9 sacks a season ago for Tennessee. And he was really the only bright spot for that Tennessee pass defense. They finished 25th in EPA per play allowed and 27th in EPA allowed per dropback a season ago. They had the second worst pressure rate in the league last season, and now they are losing their best pass rusher.
Yeah. Woof. They still got Jeffrey Simmons, though. I mean, but other than that, that's pretty much the only that's the only kind of pass rusher that they have. I mean, looking at Tennessee, and let me even just say this with my turnover is also the defense. The Titans defense was awful last year. They finished 30th in total defense. They didn't really add much to the defensive side. Like you said, they actually lost more on the defensive side than they gained. And you look at some of the players that they lost. They lose Harold Landry, Jerome Baker. Harold Landry, obviously the big one. Jerome Baker. They lose Raekwon McMillan. They traded Kenneth Murray to the Cowboys. You look at the secondary, Cheeto Awuzie, Darryl Worley, Quandre Diggs. They lost some pieces there. Who did they gain back? In terms of that, they gained back Lorenzo Carter, Draymond Jones, Sebastian Day, James Lynch, Carlos Watkins, Cody Barton. These are guys who really kind of are just role players. They really aren't guys who can go out and take over a game and dominate like Harold Landry did for this Titans team. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it on the defensive side. I think it's going to be one of those. This is going to be one of those years for the Titans, and it's going to be one of those teams where you're going to have to win by 30 and you're going to give up 30 in the process. So that's a tough break for Tennessee. I think if they want to improve, the defense is going to be somewhere they're going to have to improve in. Moving forward now, trick play. What do we see on the Titans for the trick play? Honestly, I think it's just Cam Ward at this point.
I dug a little deep. I think today, as we're recording this Thursday, the 7th, after their joint practice with Tampa Bay, Cam Ward really did go out of his way to praise those starting wide receivers I mentioned earlier. but he also by name mentioned 4th-round pick out of Florida, former Wisconsin Badger, Waukesha native, Waukesha North High School alumnus Chimere DK. And I wonder if he's going to be able to flash something on special teams for them this year. Do I think he's going to get a ton of run with the first team offense? No, but I think he's probably going to be a valuable special teamer. In college, in 29 punt return attempts between his time at Wisconsin and Florida, he averaged a little over 10 yards per punt return. So I wonder if that puts Chimere in a position to be a punt returner for Tennessee, and if he might be able to help them, flip the field from time to time.
Yeah, Cam Ward over Will Levis. I think that's the big thing. I mean, last year with Will Levis, their offense struggled a lot of games. Will Levis, Will Levis for like 4 straight weeks delivered a legendary meme in the 4 games that he played. So hopefully Cam Ward doesn't have that, but this is going to be good. And from what, just listening to a lot of the stuff on ESPN and NFL Network, they say, there really isn't a fault with him at all. He's just one of those classic stand-up type of guys that is a leader, and you need that leader for the Titans. And great example of that, praising players specifically. Not many rookie quarterbacks can go out or really will go out and do that. So very good stuff from Cam Ward. Moving on, we go to the Indianapolis Colts. Got some news though from the Colts, and we'll jump into that in a sec. But I'm going to start out with the touchdown here from the Colts. Kedrick, the Colts coming in, looking at this team, looking specifically at this offense, they have absolute riches at the skill position. I mean, you look at who they have at the skill position: Jonathan Taylor, former Badger, Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. They added Tyler Warren in the draft, a guy who is a dual threat tight end. And you still have Quentin Nelson, Tanner Bortolini on the offensive line. Tanner Bortolini, also a former Badger as well. I liked what the Colts did at the skill position. I've liked their skill position over the last few seasons. And they just added on to it by adding Tyler Warren. I do think and we'll get into the turnover here, but with the Colts, this skill position group has a chance to be the best in the National Football League. And that's my touchdown from it. Kedrick, what are your thoughts on this touchdown for you from Indianapolis?
I know that this team just fired its defensive coordinator, but I think this team took big strides on defense. Last year, this team returned, going into 2024, like 95% of its defensive starting snaps off of a unit that finished, I think it was 20th in DVOA and like 19th in EPA per play. But this defense was a lot better last year, particularly against the run rather than against the pass. This was a defense that was top half in EPA per play allowed and top 10 in success rate allowed. Like I mentioned, much better against the run than against the pass. Top 10 in EPA allowed and top 10 in success rate allowed against the run, but bottom 10 in both against the pass. But they went out and really tried to improve the back half of the defense to give them a better shot against offenses throwing the ball through the air. Bringing in Charvarius Ward from San Francisco, who's just a year removed from a second-team All-Pro season at corner, and Cam Bynum at safety out of Minnesota, who should at least set a serviceable floor there as a pretty proficient starter. Definitely not an elite guy, but a guy who you can rely on for the most part. I think that Indianapolis improved personnel-wise where they needed to on the back end of the defense.
Yeah, the defensive side, that and I'll get into that later, but when we talk the Colts, but their defense, they made some switches. They go from Gus Bradley to Lou Anarumo. I do think it will be interesting. So I'll talk more. I'll get into the trick play, but turnover, Kedrick. Honestly, my turnover from the Colts is simply their quarterbacks suck. I mean, their quarterbacks suck, and it's just because their quarterback situation overall as a whole just looks bad. And while we're recording this, the preseason is going on. Indianapolis is playing Baltimore. Anthony Richardson out for the rest of the out at least for week 1 of the preseason. Broken pinky. He broke his finger, and it was his pinky. So Daniel Jones had to come in and fill that role. I mean, they have, with all the skill positions that they have, with all the players that they have and the superstar talent that they have, you think the one position that they nailed down would be the most important position. And they have it. And they're just basically saying,
I'm looking at this picture of Anthony Richardson's broken pinky right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. But they basically are just kind of riding Anthony Richardson out here, which great. Good for you. It's not going to work. Even with them signing Daniel Jones, it's still not going to work. I mean, they have to choose between one of these two quarterbacks.
Should not bend like that.
They have to choose between one of these two quarterbacks. And it's like, no matter who you choose, you're still going to get screwed either way. So that's kind of my turnover from this. It just doesn't look good. The quarterback situation hasn't looked good in a long time since Andrew Luck retired in 2019. And it still is looking rough. You really are still thinking about the
pinky? Are you talking? That's looking rough.
The Anthony Richardson.
I think it's
pinky,
dislocated though.
It was flopping though a bit.
No. All right. Nasty. Trick play. I think the defensive coordinator switch is probably good. Or at least will be exciting to watch. If you're a Colts fan, probably more exciting to watch than the offense, whatever that looks like. Because Lou Anarumo, you never know what you're gonna get with him, basically.
Also, we're jumping right to trick play. You completely skipped over the turnover.
Don't care. The turnover is
after seeing the pinky, you've seen enough.
No, nasty. No. Yeah. We'll do trick. We'll do turnover last. Anarumo is known for in-game adjustments around the league, and so having some of that veteran defensive back presence that I mentioned in the touchdown portion, I think is going to do him a lot of good. I'll give him some ability to get different looks to challenge opposing quarterbacks a lot more, and I think even if they are just an okay-ish defense, they might give teams some real trouble from time to time, and maybe able to steal a game or two from some of these division rivals.
Yeah, and with Lou Anarumo, that's kind of a big switch. I mean, Gus Bradley, he's a good defensive coordinator. He's a solid defensive coordinator. He's had some good defenses, but they make that switch to Lou Anarumo, and I think it was a much needed switch from not only the Cincinnati Bengals, but from Lou Anarumo, because now he gets a fresh start in Indianapolis. This defense was pretty okay. Like the numbers you said, the numbers you look at from the Colts last year, they were decent. But Lou Anarumo can take this defense to a top 10, top 5 level. And they've got the talent to do it on the defensive side. Whether or not they will is up for debate. And it is a very interesting change by Shane Steichen, because I think he knows too that he's on the hot seat this year.
Yeah,
with the way things are looking there in Indianapolis. So they need a positive.
I mean, like, probably unfairly, if that actually is the case.
It's possible. But
still, like,
but if you're Chris Ballard, do you give him another shot? Do you try and go out and get a rookie quarterback? Like another one?
Yeah, you give him a shot with a quarterback who it makes sense to have on your team, or a quarterback who actually plays for your team. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what are you even evaluating?
Because I do think Shane Steichen's a good coach. I think he's a good coach. It's just he hasn't had the quarterback success. And mind you, when they had Garner Minshew leading the Colts because Anthony Richardson was hurt, they were literally minutes away from winning the AFC South and going into the playoffs. I mean, that's where we were at last year or 2 years ago. That's where we were at 2 years ago. So he can do it. He just needs the right quarterback.
Right.
So I don't know. That'll be interesting. Do you want to jump back to your turnover here?
Yeah.
You've had time to kind of digest the pinky injury.
Ugh, that's just nasty. The interior offensive line lost some real juice here. They lose their starting center and a starting right guard, both to the Minnesota Vikings. So that's interesting.
Wonderful.
Ryan Kelly and then Will Fries both out, headed over, and both pretty good at what they do. Meanwhile, you have the relatively unproven Tanner Bertolini coming in, former Wisconsin Badger, as you mentioned, at center, which I know that it looked like that was the role he was going to play in the National Football League, and I think there are going to be a lot of Wisconsin Badger fans asking why, because the one season he played at center in Wisconsin,
he was not that good.
It was just weird. Snaps never looked the way you would expect them to. They seemed to come out slow, but apparently everything we heard from Bortolini and in season, and when I talked to him at his pro day, still was nobody on the staff ever mentioned anything about snaps, anything about improving snaps. So I don't know. That's a lot of shotgun snaps in that offense. Obviously, I guess there's no way to know what this offense in Indianapolis is going to look like this year anyway. So maybe there is an improvement if Daniel Jones takes the ball and they go under center more often. But you know, it's a shotgun league, so I don't know. Yeah, but the interior offensive line lost some real juice, especially since you don't know who the quarterback is. That's not great.
Yeah. And after already having your quarterback, one of your two quarterbacks get hurt already, not ideal. So that's wonderful for the Colts. I mean, we'll see how they do. Another thing too, this Badger to Badger, Hunter Wohler, does he make the roster or does he make the practice squad?
I presume he's going to make the roster, like, especially with just how much the Colts social team has been pushing him. Like the Colts PR team has actually
they've been really
kind of, so it would just be weird. That's not usually a thing that happens when the guy is like really a fringe roster guy.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how Hunter Wohler lasted until the 7th round of the draft. That's insane to me.
Well, he'll hopefully be a stud. I mean, because they have him, like, I just had their depth chart pulled up because he's listed as a strong safety behind Nick Cross.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Yeah.
That's something to monitor. Moving on, we're actually zooming through here with good time today. Jacksonville Jaguars. This is, in my opinion, a team that I think could compete for the division against the Houston Texans, given the fact that you look at all this talent that they have. This is my touchdown, given the fact that this is my team potentially to watch in the AFC South, potentially a rival for the Texans for the division title. They got Liam Cohen, who led the Bucs to one of the top offenses in the NFL last year. They have Trevor Lawrence, who's still there. They added Travis Hunter. This team could be very good on the offensive side of the ball. That's my touchdown takeaway from it. I do think this is you've kind of hyped this up, Kedrick, for Jacksonville and the Liam Cohen sign. This is a good fit for him. Whether or not Trevor Lawrence is the guy, that is the question mark, but I don't know what your thoughts are with Jacksonville and Liam Cohen here.
Excited to see what Liam Cohen can put together. I guess I'll have a little bit more on that later, but my touchdown overall is I want to see Travis Hunter play at both sides. I want to see Travis Hunter play wide receiver, and I want to see Travis Hunter line up at defensive back. I want to see both. I think that anybody who is very loudly pounding their fist saying it's not possible, he can't do it, he needs to pick a side, like
that's where you got him wrong.
I don't even think it's that as much as just like show a small amount of intellectual humility. Like you probably would have, if you had paid attention to college football, would have been pounding your fist saying, you know, he couldn't do this. Maybe he could do this in college. Maybe he could do this at the FCS level, but you know, you can't do it at the FBS. You can't do it at the Power 4. And he's done it. He's done it the whole time. He's done it at altitude. We don't have any real data that says he can't do it. So just like be a little humble about it and wait, watch, maybe find out, evaluate a little bit more than just any of the no football you've watched him play at the NFL level so far. I want to see it. I want to find out if he can do it, especially just because of the stakes, basically, that Jacksonville, the value that Jacksonville put into him already in trading up to go get him, you know, a second, fourth, and a future first to move up and grab him. It's a lot of draft capital to give up for a wide receiver / cornerback. But if he can do a little bit of both, it makes more sense. I just want to see what happens, especially because there's just clearly so much excitement from his teammates. Like Trevor Lawrence was quoted in the media this week jockeying to try to keep him, you know, on the offensive side of the ball. He wants to be throwing to him. He's excited about it. It reminds me a lot of when Braylon Allen came into Wisconsin at only 17, and you know the offensive and defensive staffs were like kind of fighting over trying to get him on their side of the ball. Yeah. It reminds me of that. Clearly Travis Hunter is a higher level athlete, but the sentiment is still there where if you really have guys just arguing over, no, we want him on our side of the ball, that's exciting. And I want to see how it plays out. And I think we'll make this team an exciting one to watch down to down, just seeing, is Travis Hunter going to come in this snap?
Yeah. And you said about draft capital, that's a big reason why they drafted him, was because you're basically getting a corner and a wide receiver all in one. And I would like to see that too. I want to see how it fares, how it's going to look, because both sides, you know, the offensive and defensive side want him on both sides of the ball because he's played both sides of the ball in two very key positions that are two very key positions of need for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cornerback was a need and wide receiver was a need. So it will be interesting when he gets out there and if we see him line up both sides. And it also will depend on how much time he gets at both sides.
Yeah.
Like if they line him up at wide receiver a little bit more, okay, maybe they're leaning towards wide receiver. If they're lining him up at corner a little bit more than wide receiver, okay, maybe they're leaning towards more of him being on the defensive side. We don't know. So that will be fascinating to see how that will play out and if it will produce, because college football, yeah, he did it in college football, but NFL, it's a much higher level. It's a much higher level of play. You have to be able to, if you're going to play both sides, you have to be able to excel at both sides. You can't just be good at both sides. You have to excel at both sides. And hopefully Travis Hunter can. I really like this Jaguars team just simply because the offensive side is going to be so interesting to watch when Travis Hunter is out there.
Yep.
Because now it adds another weapon.
Yeah. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but the Jaguars said he's going to play on both sides of the ball in their preseason opener.
Even better.
Yep.
I'm excited.
He's going to play on both sides in the preseason opener. And let's see it. I am excited.
Everybody's excited. Duval is excited. Turnover. Now time for the unexcited part here. Turnover, Kedrick. What's your turnover for the Jaguars?
So this is a little bit tied back to Travis Hunter, but ultimately it is related to the Christian Kirk trade. The Jaguars trading Christian Kirk over to the Houston Texans just still doesn't make sense to me, makes less and less sense to me, particularly as it appears Travis Hunter is going to play on both sides of the ball, at least in the interim, in the preseason. You pull off the trade in division to Houston, the contract that you extended Christian Kirk on, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, allows Houston to cut Kirk next offseason, post June 1, and push out the cap hit then if they cannot extend him in season this year. And like, I get that Christian Kirk hasn't been healthy, but now your wide receiver 1 in Brian Thomas and your wide receiver 2, Travis Hunter, have a combined 1 NFL season underneath them. And Travis Hunter is going to play both sides of the ball. And I know Brian Thomas, had a fantastic rookie season, just shy of 1,300 receiving yards, but that's all they're rolling with. It almost seems that the most likely scenario is Travis Hunter plays more on offense just because they lack other high-end options.
Yeah. Because along with my turnover too here, you look at it, that letting go Christian Kirk, I get, yes, Christian Kirk has not panned out in Jacksonville, but they needed depth. I mean, they needed depth, and you look at it, they didn't go out and get another wide receiver. If you count Travis Hunter, they didn't really go out and draft another wide receiver for this team to add to the depth. They signed 2, they signed 1, and they signed 2 tight ends. They got De'Ami Brown in free agency, and then they signed Johnny Munt and Hunter Long. They're 2 tight ends. I guess they're rolling. I mean, the depth at that position is so brutal. And if you're really thinking that this offense is going to be explosive and exciting, especially with Liam Cohen, because we saw how explosive and exciting it can be with the right pieces, you need those right pieces. And they just didn't go out and address that depth. So that is a big concern for Jacksonville, because you're one Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter injury away from having your depth really be screwed. And that's where the Christian Kirk thing, I think, is going to be really that's going to be really brutal for them. Yeah, that's just, to me, depth at that wide receiver position isn't there. So, trick play. My trick play for this, Kedrick. Trevor Lawrence. I do think that this is a big year for Trevor Lawrence. They picked up his 5th-year option. They're giving him all the tools that he needs to be successful. You look at his
5th-year option. They signed him to a brand new deal.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Well, I looked up because I Googled it today and I asked if they picked up his 5th-year option. But if they had an extension, then never mind then. So anyways, Trevor Lawrence, this is a big year for Trevor Lawrence. In his first 3 seasons, Lawrence finished the year with at least 3,500 yards in passing and 20 plus passing touchdowns. And He had 2 out of his first 3 seasons. He had those stats. Last year, though, and that was another thing, too. He played all 17, 16 games. He played in his first 3 years. He played 3 full seasons. Last year was his first year. He did not play a full season, and he struggled. You look at it, he had 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Now, Liam Cohen comes in. Liam Cohen has that success with Baker Mayfield. Can he bring that success over to Trevor Lawrence? And can Trevor Lawrence be able to lift this Jaguars offense into new heights? And can he be the franchise quarterback that he was supposed to be when Jacksonville drafted him number 1? That is the big, big thing here from Jacksonville. And I really am hoping that it works, because here we are now going into year 5 with Trevor Lawrence. And like you said, he just got a brand new deal. It's put up or shut up time for Trevor Lawrence. Put up or shut up time for Trevor Lawrence, because, man, they need to know now if he is the guy for the future moving forward. And if they do not, and if he struggles, they're kind of screwed with that contract. So,
yeah, this is akin to my trick play as well here. It just feels like this new coaching staff is kind of coming in here at a bit of a weird time. The Trevor Lawrence extension coming last summer for 5 years. The franchise has bought into him, but he's just not been the revelation he was projected to be in the league. The only quarterbacks last year, as you mentioned, Trevor Lawrence struggled a year ago. The only quarterbacks in the league with a lower percentage, completion percentage last year than Trevor Lawrence were Jameis Winston, Cooper Rush, and Anthony Richardson. Those are the only 3 quarterbacks in the league with a worse completion percentage than Trevor Lawrence. Not fantastic company to be keeping. If you are a guy who just got, a 5-year, $55 million a year deal. Trevor Lawrence was also bottom half in the league in EPA per play and success rate. With all the investment in cash into Trevor Lawrence and all the draft capital in Travis Hunter, this might be a real mess if, Trevor Lawrence is just average to below average. Especially given that the first out on the Trevor Lawrence contract isn't until 2027. And that's factoring in an Aaron Rodgers-esque $36.5 million dead cap hit. So probably you're not getting rid of Trevor Lawrence until at least 2028. And I just don't know how you can be super sure that he is your quarterback of the future. That's not a super great spot to be in. But if Trevor Lawrence becomes Trevor Lawrence, which I'm just not convinced, he has the same number of wins, of playoff wins as Jordan Love, by the way. And everyone is trying to find reasons to doubt Jordan Love. It just feels like the national media is in that spot where everyone's trying to find reasons to believe Jordan Love can't be great.
The national media hating on a Wisconsin athlete, that's unheard of. Seems like something that we've heard of in Milwaukee already before.
But it just feels still like everybody's trying to find reasons or trying to find reasons to love Trevor Lawrence or waving away reasons to be skeptical of Trevor Lawrence. And I feel like ball knowers have been saying we're just not sure about Trevor Lawrence for quite a while now. And it feels like we're reaching Justin Herbert levels of what he had done lately,
Exactly. I mean, because even with and yeah, I just think with Trevor Lawrence, this is a really big year for him, and Jacksonville kind of screwed themselves if he doesn't pan out. And this is why, teams sometimes they just take risks on these quarterbacks, and after having one good season, they're like, oh, well, let's pay him. I mean, and that's the other thing too. They could have let his rookie deal play out. You pick up that 5th-year option before signing him, and then we don't have this conversation. But now here we are, and if it doesn't pan out this year, man, Jacksonville is really going to be in trouble. And but yeah, the hate towards Jordan Love is insane, especially with the fact that Jordan Love not only played well in the playoffs, but he dominated in the playoffs in that one playoff game. So
he didn't look great in his other 2 playoff games.
No, but they were also
he looked good against San Francisco.
I was going to say until the
last drive.
Oh, all right. AFC South preview. We're wrapping it up with the AFC South. Houston Texans. The Houston Texans. This is the team that won the AFC South last year. My touchdown coming into this. They're coming off a down year. Yeah, they won the division. They won the division, and they did get they got to the divisional round. But they again had a down year. They fired their offensive coordinator. They fired Bobby Slowick after he was in the running for a lot of head coaching jobs. And they go out and they replace him with Nick Caley to call the plays. CJ Stroud and the Texans could finally make some noise in the AFC. Nick Caley, we've seen this in the past with guys who go from the Sean McVay coaching tree over to any other franchise and sprinkle that little McVay fairy dust over there, and all of a sudden your team has improved massively in their offensive play. So that's my touchdown for this. I think the OC change was much needed, especially last year when the Texans offense, they struggled so much in games.
It's the opposite side of the ball for me. I think Houston did a good job of doubling down on its defensive front. I feel like I've done a lot of crapping on teams' decisions with their pass rush in this series so far, but Houston deserves its flowers for continuing to invest there after finishing top 5 in sacks as a defense. They give Danielle Hunter another year tacked on to his contract. He gets a 1-year extension, so he's there through 2026. Sheldon Rankins is back in Houston after a 1-year sabbatical with the Bengals. So I'll work on it. So he kicks into the interior on the D-line. And just their edges are Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson.
Ooh, that's some size.
Everyone wants to pop off about CJ Stroud and the offense. I just want to watch those guys on the edge just let it rip, frankly. That's fun. That could be more fun than the offense, frankly.
Yeah. That was my trick play. So that was my trick play for the defense. I mean, you look at what Houston did last year on defense. They finished the year in 6th with defensive yards allowed, but they finished in the top 5 with in sacks last year. Really impressive stuff. That has been kind of a staple in the DeMeco Ryans defense. Even going back to San Francisco, you look at with DeMeco Ryans when he was there in San Francisco, the year that they went to the Super Bowl with the Niners, front 4. It's their front 4. It's their linebackers. They're getting after, they're getting after the offensive players. And so here we are yet again. Houston, like you said, they're doubling down on the defensive side. They added Danielle Hunter to that group. You also look as well. They added Sheldon Rankins. They added Foley Fatakusi, Mario Edwards, Darrell Taylor, Derek Barnett. They added a lot to the defensive side. They added Damon Arnett. They re-signed Derek Stingley, or actually not re-signed, excuse me. They gave him an extension. And they also get Jalen Petrie to a contract extension. That is big for their secondary. This Texans defense is pretty good. One thing I will say about the Texans defense, and this is actually breaking news. breaking news slash.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. CJ
Yeah.
Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was staring at my phone here for the CJ Gardner-Johnson type of deal. And
Yeah, it's happened like an hour ago.
yeah. So CJ Gardner-Johnson
Got carted
basically
off the field at practice.
Yeah, he got carted off the field, and originally they
The
said
new news is he did not tear his ACL.
Yeah,
This is
so
new news. Okay.
So the news is that it was originally an ACL tear, but then they said it apparently is not an ACL tear.
It's Justin Fields in the damn toe all over again.
Yeah. So they're still doing extensive tests on that, but that's a big addition. The CJ Gardner-Johnson one, if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And we pray that and Houston fans are praying that he's healthy. If he's healthy, this is a very scary Texans defense, and they could potentially be top 3 defense in the league next year. So that was my kind of trick play. You kind of took that from me, but yeah, I like the Texans defense a lot. I like him a lot this year with DeMeco Ryans. It's been kind of his calling card, build with a defensive front and get after the quarterback. And they did it, and they're doing it in this situation in free agency. Turnover. What is the turnover here for Houston? I feel like for Houston, for me, Kedrick, it's going to be Houston's offensive line. I think they are just rattled by their offensive line. I mean, you look at even looking at the key departures from Houston. They lose Laremy Tunsil, Kedrick Green, Kenyon Green, and Shaq Mason. All right, so that's 3 guards and a tackle. And you look at it, Shaq, all 4 of those guys were starters, I believe, on the offensive line. Now, let me put it in this way. Even with those 4 starters, that offensive line was still terrible. They were worst. They were one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They were actually dead last, according to Pro Football Network. And so a head-scratching move for me is they were worst in the NFL in the offensive line category, and now you trade 4 of your starters on the offensive line, and they added Laken Tomlinson, Ed Ingram, Cam Robinson, and Trent Brown. Okay. I don't think that's gonna help your offensive line, but poor CJ Stroud. I mean, they added a lot of pieces on the offensive side in terms of the skill position. The one problem is he may not have enough time to get the ball off to his wide receivers. Otherwise, he's seeing sky. So that's my big thing with this team is, man, they didn't improve on the O-line. And even after trading an all-pro tackle and Laremy Tunsil, you still don't improve on the offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing there. It again feels like a symptom of they became competitive faster than they thought they were going to. And so they just didn't have the real opportunity to develop a line. But for me, it's another spot on the offense. It's who is catching passes alongside Nico Collins, who is the number 1 wide receiver, but only played 12 games last season. Tank Dell's knee is still shredded after it was destroyed in December. Stephon Diggs is gone. Christian Kirk is there, but hasn't played a full season since 2023. And 2nd-round pick out of Iowa State, Jaden Higgins, is listed as the 3rd starting wide receiver on the initial depth chart.
I mean,
this could be a real problem, particularly if Christian Kirk gets hurt again.
I mean, from going back into the draft process, when I was looking at the Packers in terms of the draft process, I liked Jaden Higgins because he's a good and Jalen Noel too. Both of them played at the same college. They both played at Iowa State, both rookies. So both were very productive. I really think that maybe one of those two pans out and it works. I think Higgins.
Sure, but then that's all, if Christian Kirk gets hurt, that's all you got.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with that. I mean, after Christian Kirk, I mean, their depth isn't really particularly good. I mean, besides adding Christian Kirk, they get Justin Watson from the Chiefs. You still do have John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson. And if you want to go back a little bit further, you also have former Badger Quintez Cephas there as well. And if you want to go back even further, you have Minnesota Golden Gophers Daniel Jackson. So the depth is that depth, I do agree, is not there at that position.
I did not realize that's where Justin Watson ended up. That's not a bad depth piece.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's a decent depth piece to have.
What did they sign? Because I think he's only there for 1 year, though.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good. It at least solves their depth, but even too, I do agree, their depth is very small because Christian Kirk, they're one Christian Kirk injury away, and even two, it's going to be one of those things where it is the waiting game of they're kind of holding their own until Tank Dell gets back, because once Tank Dell gets back,
that might not be until 2026.
Yeah. And even two, well, and that's the other thing, even two, I mean, this is his second season-ending injury as well, because his rookie year, he had a ACL tear, and then last year he had a broken leg. So, yeah, I do get where they're going when they doubled down on wide receiver and got Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. But yeah, you're right. The depth is very concerning. So trick play for you, Kedrick. I went with my trick play, which was the defensive side. But what is your trick play for this Houston Texans team?
If the running backs are healthy, they might have something here. Joe Mixon is currently out with an apparently non-football related ankle and foot injury.
Wait.
Nick Chubb, whose knee and foot have been destroyed the last 2 years, sat out of practice on Wednesday, so that's good. But they also have Dare Ogunbowale.
Former Badger too, by the way.
Correct. We need a ding sound. We need a bell sound for every time we mention these former Badgers, by the way,
ding.
Because we're doing it too much. We need an ironic ding. Because we're doing it a lot.
Yeah.
And then maybe for the Pittsburgh Steelers segment, we just smash it over and over again. But hey, Dare, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, if people are healthy in that room, that's something. Do I think everybody's going to be healthy in that room? Absolutely not. But
you're also forgetting Damian Pierce in there too.
Yeah. I think that's the trick play is maybe they do a little bit of something if they can move the ball to the ground, and that could help them quite a bit. Yeah, feels like this is a Houston team in a really weird place, and will probably benefit from everybody else in the division being in a really weird place. Tennessee's in a full-blown rebuild. There's just no idea what Indianapolis is. Jacksonville's in a little bit of a reset year. But if I'm looking at every division and just looking at division champs most likely to get picked off,
Houston's probably in that top tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, which it goes back to every year of why, like, even, they're a playoff team, they still aren't like up there with like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, Ravens, they aren't up there with any of those teams. They're just kind of, a tier below that.
Yeah.
And we've seen it like the last couple of years. I mean, they did win a playoff game last year, but they kind of, they didn't really do much after that. And if you're going to compete with those other teams, like, you have to be better in some regard. I will say Joe Mixon did have a good year last year. He had a really good year last year in Houston. Not really many people talk about it though, because, Houston really just didn't have a good year overall. They made the playoffs, but it only was because the AFC South was so bad.
But it's just like Houston didn't have a good year, but if we would rewind to 2 years ago today, and we were saying that the Houston Texans in 2024 win a wild card game and lose by single digits to the Chiefs in the divisional round. If you rewind to a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit further.
Yeah.
We're all saying, oh, that would be great for Houston to do in 2024. It's just the weird, warped expectations we all kind of got after the CJ Stroud rookie year.
Yeah. And it panned out well, but it's kind of one of those things where
he plays in a conference that's headlined by Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson.
And Joe Burrow, and among others. And it's not easy. And it's kind of the little brother syndrome, basically. You got little brother right here in the Texans, and then big brothers.
Yeah.
There. So you can decide who's the middle child. I would say the Bengals might be the middle child, but there are other teams who could be the middle child. So that does it for our AFC South. Now we jump to the NFC South. And Kedrick, the NFC South was interesting towards the end of the season because the Falcons kind of made it interesting at the end. The Bucs had a phenomenal season last year. It was kind of a disappointment, though. They lost in the wild card game by a field goal to the Commanders, who then went on a sensational run. So we're going to preview the NFC South. And we have to start with the worst team. This team legitimately might finish dead last in the league this year. The New Orleans Saints. Kedrick, I don't have much to say on this for touchdown other than the fact they got Kellen Moore. They got a shiny new head coach, and that's about it. So
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think the touchdown's got to be the coaching staff. It really feels like the front office married the idea on both sides of the ball of hiring guys who the league sees as schematic savants. And that would certainly be Kellen Moore, who just the impression very clearly overall is just let him go coach the offense. And in a league where these offensive guys, these play callers are so high in demand, you kind of have to give them head coaching jobs to do so. And then Brandon Staley, who probably is going to be a better coordinator than he was a head coach with the Chargers.
He took a head coaching job too early.
Yeah, that's the thing is, well, he came in and was the coordinator of a number one scoring defense in the league in the Los Angeles Rams, and then went immediately to a head coaching job. That was the only year Brandon Staley has ever been a coordinator in the league, ever. He won the National Coordinator of the Year at the college D3 level, by the way. Well, that was something I learned today. but he just doesn't have a ton of coordinating experience. But I think it's clear that it's something that he is up for. And so the Saints kind of just going in and hiring guys who I think pretty clearly know what they're doing from an X's and O's standpoint is what you have to be excited about as a Saints fan, even if it's not going to pan out this year necessarily.
Yeah. Turnover for me, I can't even talk about this after the fact. Turnover, man. The Saints. The reason why they're they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the National Football League, and probably will have the worst record in the league when this is all said and done, is simply because, for just a few things, 3 players retired this offseason: Derek Carr, Ryan Ramczyk, and Tyrann Mathieu. Those are 3 big players, especially Ryan Ramczyk on the offensive line, which
Ding,
former Badger. And they also drafted this year. So what do they do to replace Derek Carr? Let's go out and draft a 26-year-old quarterback from Louisville who literally cannot throw the football. If you've seen the combine and some training camp videos, this man cannot throw a football to save his gosh darn life. And so there's that. And on top of that, they also have the 7th oldest team in the National Football League. And I had to look this up. This was on 2 different websites. Their average age is either 26.30 or 25.82 in terms of their average age. 7th oldest in the league. They re-signed Cam Jordan to their team. Wonderful job. I mean, he could have easily gone to another team and potentially won a ring there, but nope, he's staying in New Orleans. And the one thing that kind of is why they're going to be one of the more suckier teams in the league, they are in cap hell. And we've said this for the last several years. They have kicked the can, and that can has been literally almost, it's nothing at this point. It's basically just a little cap. That's the turnover for the Saints here, Kedrick, for me. I don't know what your thoughts are, if you agree with some of that, or if you have something different in mind in terms of New Orleans. But yeah, this team looking pretty rough.
You think Tyler Shuck can't throw a football?
Did you see the combine video? Do you think
I don't give a shit about what guys do?
But do you think
underpants?
Do you think he's going to be the solution at quarterback? I do not.
Sure,
I don't think so.
Why the hyperbole to he can't throw a football? He was a starting quarterback in a
Brian Brom.
Yeah, in a Brian Brom offense. He threw for 3,500 yards.
Jeff Brom.
Jeff Brom, yeah. He threw for 3,500 yards last year at Louisville. All Jeff Brom asks quarterbacks to do is chuck the freaking ball. He can throw a football. Do I think he's going to be successful as an NFL starting quarterback? I don't know, probably not, but he can throw a football and can do so effectively if he's just playing in a chuck it ball offense, throw it all over. He can make throws.
But
I don't know. We have no idea what the plan is for the future at quarterback. And we're in year 5 of it, basically. I know you got Derek Carr 2 seasons ago coming off of a Pro Bowl appearance, but just it's been so rough. If you are a New Orleans Saints fan, and you hope the Derek Carr retirement announcement is all injury related, but it is hard not to wonder if, given the timing, the coaching staff turnover, what was Derek Carr's relationship with Kellen Moore like? Was he not really a guy you wanted to play with? Kellen Moore is young enough that he and Derek Carr played
against each other when Carr was at Fresno State and Kellen Moore was the starting quarterback at Boise State back in the Mountain West. Like,
Kellen Moore's been around that. They were both interesting.
Yeah, they're that like
so they're
Coach
that
Kellen
tied.
Moore is that young, like, and for a player, Derek Carr's that old. Not that old. What, he's 33. But you just wonder what a relationship is like when you see a guy as your peer then rather than a coach, and he all of a sudden gets thrown in. Maybe Derek Carr had a good relationship with the coaching staff. I don't know. It's just, you hope it really is all injury related. The timing just seems weird. And yeah, you just have no idea what they are doing there at quarterback, and haven't known for a long time.
Yeah. So looking at the Saints roster, like just quarterback wise, they have Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck, Jake Hayner, and Hunter Deckers. Yeah, that is a rough room. And even from the quarterback competition too, it sounds like Spencer Rattler might get the start to start the preseason. So yeah, man, this is just, it's not a good situation. And we'll see how in New Orleans, definitely they may suck this year. But even too, you look at next year, I mean, what's the prize for having the worst record? Right now, it would be Arch Manning, but Arch Manning's staying at Texas for another year. So now what? That New Orleans, just the quarterback situation. This is what happens. This is what happens with some franchises. This is what happens when you don't have a backup plan in place for when your franchise quarterback starts getting up in age and when you start needing to think about the long-term future for this team. This is one of those rare things. I mean, you look at it, Kansas City did it with Alex Smith. They drafted Patrick Mahomes. Green Bay has done it twice now with Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. New England semi did it, I think. But you look at it like you need to have a backup plan in place for when your franchise quarterback inevitably decides to retire. And they didn't. And now look at where they are. 5 years later, we're having Spencer Rattler start at quarterback. Like, this is just bad. Trick play for the Saints. I'm still continuing on with this. There's no trick play. They're just going to suck this year. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think this was really hard. Like,
I know.
I don't know. I dug in and I said,
this was a tough one for me to look up for, like to research.
Maybe Brandon Cooks can do something as a third option at receiver.
As a third option at receiver
behind Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Those are like good wide receivers. I feel bad for Chris Olave, man. I cannot believe he is trapped on that team. That Poor is guy. Horrendous. Yeah, maybe Brandon Cooks can have a career renaissance, take some of the load off. I didn't realize that Brandon Cooks hasn't been in New Orleans since 2016. It's really been that long.
It has been.
I thought in the back of my head, like he left more around the time Drew Brees did. No. Yeah, he hasn't been there for a while. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Brandon Cooks is a guy. We'll see. Otherwise, I do not have a lot of like, man, I wonder if this pans out for the Saints.
You're not wrong. I mean, this was a tough one to even to try and type because it's like, man, what do I even put in for the Saints? There really isn't much.
I mean, the only thing you and I both said positive was like, all right, I guess a lot of things are going to change. Like, that's the positive.
Yeah.
Oh
God. All right. Carolina Panthers. We're gonna try and hopefully have a little bit more positivity after that. Carolina Panthers. Touchdown for me. Carolina, towards the end of the year, they showed some promise. They were in a lot of close games towards the end of the season. Bryce Young did show some promise at the end of the season. They made some improvements on the offense by adding Tech McMillan, getting him a potential number one wide receiver, and improve the offensive line. Dave Canales, we saw this in Tampa Bay. We've seen him do well with quarterbacks. We saw that a little bit towards the end of the season where Bryce Young looked decently well. I do think the Panthers could take a big step. I don't think it's going to be making the playoffs, but I think they could take a big step this year. I think they could maybe get 6 wins out of that. Maybe 7. That is their ceiling right now. 6 or 7 wins is the ceiling for the Panthers. And with these offensive improvements, I could see something there. So,
yeah, I am weirdly like I was looking at this and it's like, oh, maybe the Panthers kind of do have something cooking here. Do you remember, Noah, in 2023 when we were all talking like, is this the worst rookie year for a quarterback of all time?
Yeah, it was
Bryce Young.
bad.
He took 62 sacks as a rookie. 62, like that's
Insane.
losing 477 yards. That puts Justin Fields' numbers to shame. Mind you, in 2023, Justin Fields was one of the 4 quarterbacks who, on a per drop back basis, took more sacks than Bryce Young. This will forever be my bit.
The Justin Fields slander is just it's a bit now.
He's terrible. He's an unfixable quarterback. Because you know what? Even Bryce Young has been fixed. He only took 29 sacks last year. He cut the number of sacks he took in half and was also way down on his sacks per drop back. It's not like even a reflection, like just as Bryce Young, but it is, or Carolina as a whole, but it's just, it could be either and or both. It is just tremendously notable upward trajectory that I think is good for a player and a team that in 2023 everyone was clowning on, and I am glad for Bryce Young human that he had that team did not dump him out the door.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I'm still laughing at the Justin Fields.
He deserves it.
I can't. I don't know why that's funny, but
This dude took 62 sacks, and Justin Fields still took more sacks per drop back. That's insane.
How is that even possible?
That's insane.
Oh, I wish Sam was on this show right now just to rip into Justin Fields and him trying to just defend it. Oh, gosh. All right. Turnover for this Panthers team. My turnover is on the other side of the ball. I think you could agree with me with this. This Panthers defense did not really improve on the defensive side of the ball. They got better on the offensive side, but when you look on the defensive side of it, Carolina lost some pretty key pass rushers here.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say like they're franchise-altering pass rushers, but they're key role players. They lose Jadeveon Clowney, Shaq Thompson, Deshaun Williams, and Cam Gill. On your defense, they also lose Jordan Fuller, who goes to the Falcons. And what did the Panthers add? They added Patrick Jones and Tershawn Wharton and Bobby Brown. That's all they added in free agency. And then in the draft, they added Nick Skirton from Texas A&M. And I don't even know how to say this last name. I tried to Prince Umanilian from Ole Miss to improve their pass rush. This Carolina team is going to be rough on the defensive side. I mean, they let Brian Burns go, and this is the price you have to pay now for trading Brian Burns. You don't have a really good pass rusher there for the defense, and now you're having to kind of rebuild that defense up, which right now looks like a skeleton of itself. You drafted 2 pass rushers, both are rookies. And mind you, this team recorded 32 sacks last year, which is not very good if you know your numbers in terms of defensive stats. So that's my turnover for this Panthers team, man. They're going to suck on the defensive side, particularly in the pass rush. Their secondary looks great. I mean, J.C. Horn's coming back, but man, that front 4 and that pass rush is going to be rough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, mine's basically the same. You mentioned the 32 sacks. That's bottom 3 in the league a year ago. They were also top 3 in the league in missed tackles. They had the worst pressure rate in the league. And you mentioned Jadeveon Clowney is gone, but also on the interior, Javon Kinlaw is gone. And that's 10 sacks between the two of them. 10 of the 32 from a season ago are gone. So you mentioned a lot of new faces, and that's who they're going to be relying on to generate production that was already severely lacking. And that's not spectacular.
Yeah. They're going to be one of those teams. I say they get those 6 or 7 wins. That's an improvement, but a lot of these games, they're going to really have to find different ways to get after the quarterback, because I don't think even with a base 4, you're not going to get really much help from the base 4. So trick play, what trick play for me, same thing going back to the positive, the touchdown, Bryce Young, potential breakout season. I know this team, they're probably only going to get 6-7 wins, but Bryce Young, I think this is a big year for him. I think this is really where we can see him kind of shine, kind of flourish. And he's got now the weapons to do it. He's got Tech McMillan. He's got Xavier Leggett. He's got Adam Thielen. And they signed Hunter Renfrow, who's a really decent route runner. You have pieces there now to go and give Bryce Young some help. The running game, I think, got better over last year. I think now it's just more of Bryce Young. Can he finally put it together to get this Carolina Panthers team to show progress and show that they've got their guy for the future? And that guy is Bryce Young. That's my trick play for them.
I like it. I am hopeful that is the case. I don't necessarily know that it is going to be the case. But it sure would be nice to see. For me, it is some of the weapons Bryce Young has at his disposal. And that's Tech McMillan, who comes in through the draft, Xavier Leggett, like you mentioned. And then I'm very intrigued by them bringing in Hunter Renfrow, who I think has a chance of really complementing the first 2, where the first 2 guys are young, quick, can get down the field, while Renfrow has some genuine ability just as a route runner. And, he has a pretty shallow average depth of target, 5.6 yards last season, 6.7 yards for his career. It might make him the kind of veteran intermediate target as for a security blanket that Bryce Young needs. And that might help the offense really flourish.
Yeah.
Kind of a boring trick play, but intermediate veteran wide receiver. I think it really could help him.
It could. And I think too that the add of Tet McMillan gives you a potential number one wide receiver for this team, which is something that was missed the last couple of seasons. And so them going out and addressing that need and being like, okay, Bryce Young, he did some good things. The one issue that he had was he didn't have a number one wide receiver that he could go to. They had it with Xavier Leggett, but Xavier Leggett's kind of looking more like a role player, which is what it is. Now let's get him a true guy in Tet McMillan who has solid hands, can run the whole route tree to a T, can just be a guy with size too. He's pretty tall. So I like that. I like what the trick play is for the Carolina Panthers from you, Kedrick. We got two more teams left. Atlanta Falcons. This Falcons team, they last year were very close to sneaking their way into the playoffs. Michael Penix played the last 3 games of the season for Atlanta, which Atlanta was a whole question mark in itself from the minute the draft started to the minute the season ended. And so I'm going to start with it here. Touchdown for me, it's not the offense, but it's actually the defensive side. And Atlanta, for the first time in a long, long time, they drafted not one edge rusher, but 2 edge rushers in Jalen Walker and James Pierce. They also added Jeff Ulbrich to be their new DC. They get a new DC in there, and Jeff Ulbrich, phenomenal stuff with what he did with the Jets. You look in his time there in New York, he had his defenses finishing in the top 10, top 5 in 2022, 2023, and 2024 in top 5 in yards allowed. And in 2 out of those 3 years, they finished in the top 5 in defensive EPA. Really good stuff here with the Falcons. Really good stuff snagging him from the Jets. I think this is going to be a big boost for this Falcons defense. I think adding Jalen Walker and James Pierce, I think helps. Yeah, you look at the Panthers and those 2 rookies. Yeah, they're rookies, but you look at in terms of the quality for Atlanta, Jalen Walker and James Pierce, I think, are better in terms of the quality of rookies. And on top of that, for Atlanta, they added Leonard Floyd, Kentavious Street, and Morgan Fox. They added 2 edges and a defensive tackle. You add some pieces at least to kind of replace or replicate Grady Jarrett's success. But I think with the success of Jeff Ulbrich the last few years says all you need to know for this Falcons team. And that's why I have him as my touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I basically have the same thing. They hadn't drafted a pass rusher in, I think it's 9 drafts, maybe 8 drafts. And then they went ahead and got 2 in the first round, which shocking considering they needed one, a year ago after signing a ostensible franchise quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And then what do? They went and
draft Michael Penix,
which was weird. So yeah, I think you mentioned most of these guys. I obviously mentioned the draft picks and Jalen Walker and James Pierce, but even Morgan Fox coming over on the edge from the Chargers, helping provide some depth is great on the edge. Leonard Floyd from the 49ers and his 8.5 sacks from a season ago. And was his fewest of any of the past 5 seasons, was 8.5. So that's a big boon for Atlanta. Overall, it's just huge for a team that had the second fewest sacks in the league in 2024 and was 25th in EPA allowed per dropback. They're going to be entirely different on the edge.
They're going to take a big step up. Big step up.
I hope so for their sake.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they do. Atlanta, on top of that, they got Jordan Fuller who comes over. That's a good safety help. They also get Mike Hughes. They re-signed him on a 3-year deal. And I don't know if we want to ding this one, but they get Kevin King to the Falcons roster.
No.
So that's one addition that they had. But Atlanta,
wrong UW.
Yeah. Atlanta, even though, they lose Lorenzo Carter, Matthew Judon, Eddie Goldman, Grady Jarrett, they kind of replicated their pass rush essentially by adding younger pieces on the pass rush and trying to replicate Grady Jarrett's success. I mean, Grady Jarrett was their only all-pro on the defensive front for the last few years. So maybe we'll see we'll see improvement. And even with Jeff Ulbrich too, I think we'll definitely see some huge improvement from that defense as a whole. Turnover. This wide receiver depth for Atlanta is absolutely horrendous. We talked about it with the Houston Texans, their wide receiver depth being questionable, and Jacksonville's, their wide receiver depth being rough. Atlanta's is just horrific because after Drake London and Darnell Mooney, and you have Ray McLeod, Kadarius Hodge, Casey Washington, and they signed Jamal Agnew to a 1-year deal. Other than that, this is a Falcons team that is 1, maybe 2 injuries away from having a real issue at wide receiver. And the depth is very concerning. And on top of that, too, they did not go out and draft a wide receiver. So that is a bit concerning if you're a Falcons fan. Not liking it. Maybe Kyle Pitts will step up this year. Maybe this is finally the time he has a breakout year. Who knows?
Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Kedrick?
Kirk Cousins is the backup and has a no trade clause after throwing for over 250 yards per game. 14 starts a season ago. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Would Kirk Cousins even be willing to go into a game if Michael Penix ends up being terrible? He has a no trade clause and is making and has a $180 million contract. If Michael Penix gets hurt, or not even that, because I think in a world where Michael Penix has an early season ending injury, I think Kirk Cousins sees this as, okay, great. This is my opportunity. Let's go. My team again. Great. But if they want to bench Penix week 12 in the middle of a game, does Kirk just go, no, play Easton Stick? What do I care?
It's very possible.
This is the position you've put yourself in as a franchise to where the motivations here and the incentives are just all out of whack. And I get that there was nothing they really could have done this offseason to fix it. But it's you still have a mess on your hands. Why? What good does having Michael Penix go out there now? What good was any of this? It still just befuddles me to no end.
It befuddles me even because the fact this should have never happened in the first place. Why do you draft Michael Penix when you already have Kirk Cousins wrapped up for a huge deal? It makes no sense. It still makes no sense. Here we are a year later, and this Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix rigmarole still makes no sense. And yeah, if Kirk Cousins if Kirk doesn't want to play, Kirk doesn't want to play. So Easton Stick better get his shoulder warmed up, better get his throwing arm warmed up. Trick play. My trick play is going to be Michael Penix. Continuing on with Michael Penix, what does he look like now in a full 17-game season? He played 3 games last year, and in those 3 games, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1 and 2. That's not like flashy, but you look at Atlanta, they were in a game against Washington that went to overtime, and they were in a game against Carolina that also, I believe, went to overtime, and they lost both of those games to get them knocked out of the playoffs. If I'm looking at Atlanta, now this is really kind of Michael Penix's audition to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons. And it comes now with a full 17-game season. So I'm thoroughly curious how this is going to work, if it does work at all. Because if it doesn't work, and you said, Kedrick, if Kirk Cousins doesn't want to play, Atlanta's kind of screwed with Easton Stick. That's where we could potentially be at. Or they just keep Michael Penix in and they let him play and see if he can adapt to his surroundings. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. That's my 2 cents on that.
Seems incredibly stupid. My trick play for the Atlanta Falcons is what are they able to get out of what's probably the last year of the backfield of Tyler Allgeier and Bijan Robinson. It's the 3rd year of Bijan. It's a contract year for Allgeier. It feels like a team that if they get ahead on the scoreboard, Atlanta might really have a chance to grind out a win. The Falcons led the league in rushing success rate in 2024 and was 7th in EPA per rush. So like this is a team that can run the ball, or at least could a season ago. But are they going to have the ability to get ahead in games? Or are they going to have to throw the ball? And maybe in a world where they have actual pass rushers, they can do more to keep themselves ahead and to attack teams that are trying to fight back from behind. So we'll see it. I think that overall might be, the recipe for some optimism down at the Big Body Bends.
Yeah, I do think that when you look at with Tyler Allgeier and Bijan Robinson, those are the 2 that really have kind of made this Atlanta Falcons thing work, that have made this offense kind of productive. It has been kind of the ground game. Now, will it be productive with will it be productive? Maybe. But yeah, Tyler Allgeier's in a contract year. Bijan Robinson is now going to be probably the guy who's going to tote more of the carries, but it's one of those it's one of those things where Atlanta, if they can get up early in a game, it is very hard for teams to get them out of it early. So I do think that watching those 2 over the last couple of years, they've been so hard to stop in the ground game. And which is why you look at it down the stretch, it was one of their big focal points of why they were in so many games, was because they ran the ball really well and they were able to get those 2 going. Now add it with a Michael Penix. Can they still get that run game going with an added potential boost to that pass game? So last one here to wrap things up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay last year won the division in the NFC South. They made it to the playoffs, lost to the Commanders by a field goal. This was our darling last year on this show. Tampa Bay, touchdown for me, got better over this past season with the offensive firepower. And Baker Mayfield last year led a top 5 offense last year for this team. Now they're going into year 3 with him, and they added some firepower. They brought some back. They gave Chris Godwin an extension. They bring Sterling Shepard in. They also went on to the draft, got Emeka Buka out of Ohio State, and got a steal for Tez Johnson in the 7th out of Oregon. They gave him some more weapons to throw to. I guess they're just kind of letting it fly with Baker Mayfield, and they're adding Emeka Buka into that mix, a guy who can run everything and anything. And we've seen Ohio State receivers, how good they have panned out over the last few years. But this is going to be an interesting team with the Baker Mayfield offense in itself from the skill position spot.
Yeah, I'm looking at the offensive line here. Over the last couple of seasons, they've really had their line pieces developed that they needed to. And there's something in the water in the bay there. Obviously, Tristan Wirfs is crushing it at left tackle. But 2022 draft pick Luke Gadecki bloomed into a solid right tackle on the opposite side. Cody Mock performed solid on the interior last year in his sophomore season. And so now there's, not really a reason to believe that a sophomore jump for Graham Barton at starting center can't be the same here. I know he struggled a little bit as a run blocker, but he did okay enough against the pass. But a big jump is going to be needed from him if Tampa's going to make a run. And I think if you're looking at the recent track record of offensive line development and success in Tampa, you have it.
Yeah. That's been kind of the big calling card for Tampa too. And it goes back to when they drafted Tristan Wirfs. They've built from the O-line to be really successful and be able to protect their quarterback. And they've still done that to this day when they won the Super Bowl back in 2020. Now, that's still the case here. Where does Graham Barton fit? I don't know. But Tampa's offensive line, man, that is a beefy offensive line in terms of size. So, turnover here, Kedrick. We both kind of have the same thing. Liam Cohen, obviously the big glaring one. Losing Liam Cohen to the Jacksonville Jaguars, that is a tough loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On top of that, too, now, this is Baker Mayfield's third straight different OC that he's had to work with in his career since he got to Tampa. So now they've got Josh Grizzard, who last year, where did I have that? Well, they got Josh Grizzard, who comes in as the OC. Can this offense keep this production going? Because I think you look at it last year with Liam Cohen being gone, very, very hard to replace that production, given the fact that Cohen, put up incredible numbers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year as the play caller.
Yeah, I think you could reasonably make the argument that last year's offense was better than the 2020 Super Bowl winning offense for Tampa Bay. You'd make the argument statistically that was the best offense in franchise history. They were a top 5 unit, both on the ground and through the air. Like, this offense was appointment viewing a year ago. This team was top 6 in the league in rush EPA per play, rush EPA success rate, and dropback EPA per play, and dropback EPA success rate. The only other teams to do that, the only other teams to be top 6 in passing and rushing EPA per play and success rate, the only other 2 teams in the league to do that, other than Tampa Bay, were Baltimore and Detroit. That offense last year was good enough to win a Super Bowl. I know they were 10-7. That offense was good enough to win the Super Bowl. And now Josh Grizzard comes in, who's never been a coordinator at any level. Okay, let's see it. Let's see it. I really wish that team had won at least one more game so that we could have some fun off-season discourse about Tampa Bay rather than the flashy toy that is Jaden Daniels. But I really hope they pick up where Tampa Bay left off last year.
And this is kind of the same situation with the Eagles too, because they have Kevin Patullo, who also has not called,
right.
Who's never called plays in his life.
Right.
So now with Josh Gridget, same situation, and same situation too with Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield. I mean, yeah, things would have been so different had they had won that game to the Commanders, and we're still sitting here now talking about, man, now what's it going to look like with a new offensive coordinator and a guy who has never called plays in his life. So, trick play, Kedrick. Mine is just going to be simply who's going to get after the quarterback here for Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa, they didn't really add too much to the pass rush. I mean, they bring back Anthony Nelson. They sign Hassan Reddick to a 1-year deal, but Hassan Reddick only played 10 games last year for the Jets, given the fact that he was in a contract dispute for like 7 of those games. And so this is very interesting with Tampa. I mean, Todd Bowles, phenomenal job with what he's done. I will digress from last season. I thought that he was a bad head coach. Now here we are. He's a pretty good head coach, and the defensive side and his defensive team show it. But you look at Tampa Bay, they are in a interesting spot here where I guess they're just kind of letting Yaya Diaby and Kalijah Kancey go at it along with some of the other guys on the defensive front. I mean, this is really going to be a big question mark. Who's going to get after the quarterback? Because they lose 3 key pieces on that defensive front. They lose Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and William Golston, who's a longtime Buck there. So now it's just kind of who's going to get that production. Yaya Diaby did have some good production last year, but was in and out of the lineup. Kalijah Kancey, are you hoping that he can step up and try and be that guy? I don't know. Who's gonna get after the quarterback here?
For me, it has to be the health of Chris Godwin. He is starting the year on the physically unable to perform list. And when he and Mike Evans are playing across from each other, there just is no more dangerous passing offense in the league. Maybe Philly, maybe with the riches they have there between Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. But if they are healthy, if Chris Godwin is healthy and he can go out and perform alongside Mike Evans, I think the offense is going to be plug and play. But if not, I don't know. And that's going to be interesting to, I guess I don't know what will happen there. They were great despite Godwin only playing 7 games last year. A lot of that thanks to Bucky Irving on the ground. So I think they'll be able to produce regardless, but if they get a full season of Chris Godwin, that offense has the potential to reach the same heights it did a season ago, at the very least.
And that's if he's healthy. I mean, because you still have, they still have a really good core. I mean, when Chris Godwin is healthy, they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. You have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans there. You also add Emeka Egbuka to that roster. They have pieces that are relatively good. So just really being able to have Chris Godwin, because Chris Godwin is a do-it-all type receiver for this team. So that is a big ask for him to come back, and giving him that extension. It kind of is like, okay, we're going to see what you can do. We're not going to give you too many years, but we're going to see what you can do. So, with that, that wraps it up for us. Watch Snap the Pigskin wherever you get your podcasts, and listen to us on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and much more. And next week, what do you say we dive into the West? We go out west here, break down the AFC West, NFC West next week for our division previews as we continue on here till we get towards the regular season. So with that, I am Noah, joined by Kedrick. This has been another edition of Snap the Pigskin.